Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. I sent her a glitter Christmas card and she called the cops on me. Moved into a nice little neighborhood with my husband and soon-to-be newborn. One night, my husband was walking our corgi puppy and the neighbor across from us came outside. Corgi puppy runs over to her and the woman shrieks and runs inside. Husband comes out later without the puppy and she cusses him out, screams at him. He tries to apologize but she keeps screaming. A few days later, a humane officer comes to my door, wakes my newborn baby and tells me he will give me a fine for allowing my dog to charge our neighbor if it happens again. I guess he was under the impression that this happened more than one time. He said my neighbor was terrified for her safety. I told him I have a 7-pound corgi puppy, literally the least terrifying animal on earth. She also yells at our other neighbor who mows a vacant lot beside her anytime he gets close to her grass, which gets pretty tall. They have gotten into screaming matches and she's even called the cops on him multiple times, never ending in her favor. I found an online website that anonymously sends people glitter bomb holiday/Christmas cards, so when you open it, it shoots glitter everywhere. Like a month goes by and I was wondering if this website just took my money or if she wasn't going to say anything about it. And I kid you not. A cop comes to my door, asks to come inside and then busts out laughing, explaining he's here over a glitter Christmas card. He tells me I made his day and that was the funniest call he's ever ran and leaves. Totally legal and great pity revenge. Edit. She also kidnapped my cat, but that's a story for a different day. We are cool now, surprisingly. She even gifted me some edibles. I was a bit suspicious they were poisoned or something as revenge for the card, but they were fantastic and we talk on a regular basis now. Turns out she's just a bit socially anxious, so that's why she's gotten into it with a lot of the neighbors. But she's actually a really nice person under the Karen exterior. I'll post a screenshot on my profile for those who think I'm lying. Also, dude, my husband let the dog off the leash one time for whatever reasoning he had. I always use a leash. Next story. Entitled Mother pulls a wrong leg and gets instant karma. My friend was a 16-year-old without a leg. Thus, he wore a prosthetic one. He lost it at birth. On this particular day, he was using public transportation, since he doesn't have a license yet. He was on a bus which was fairly crowded and he was minding his own business, sitting down when this literal Karen demon walks over to him. And this is the exchange that follows. Get up. No.
I demand you to get up. I'm a woman and you are a man.
I was slightly startled. What does gender have to do with this? I've been walking for a bit and I want to sit down, sorry.
I don't care.
At this point, her demon spawn walks up.
Me and my baby want to sit here, so be a nice young man and stand up.
I get that, but I don't really want to. Again, I'm sorry.
That's it.
The entitled mother yanks his prosthetic leg, causing my friend to yell. What in the world, woman?
Get down.
My friend was almost in tears. Get off me! Then the entitled mother, feeling his leg a bit more, feels it is not real. She panics and drops it. Then she grabs her kid and bolts. As she's running, she trips and lands face first, apparently losing a tooth and breaking her nose. My friend then got off at his stop and proceeded to tell everyone at school the next day. What a glorious story. Next story. Entitled Parents Fight Over Custody of a Child Neither of Them Deserves. The CPS gets involved. Backstory. So my one friend from high school has been a choosing beggar pretty much his entire life. He's the kind of guy who demands gas money after offering you a half-a-mile ride. Tries to not just sell but upsell cheap beer at a BYOP party. I would even sneak/steal food, drinks, alcohol from other people. He comes from a pretty well-off family, and I got to know him when my friends and I made a band in high school, and he joined as our second guitar player. He eventually grows into the entitled father of this story. After a couple of years, we graduated, and I left the band to go on to get a degree in college, while everyone else stayed in the same town. I would swing by from time to time to catch up with my friends and see some of their shows when I could. One show was particularly large, so I volunteered to help them out. After a bit of mooshing and whatnot, their set ends and I noticed that the entitled father has been talking to this girl with dyed red hair and black clothes. She's a future entitled mother. My knowledge on most of the relationship from this point is on second hand since I would only learn about what happened between the two through my friends. The relationship was rocky at best. The entitled father developed a drinking problem and was predictably selfish. The entitled mother was disowned by her parents, living with the entitled father because she didn't work, quit, was fired from any job she did try out within a week. Not an exaggeration. They would constantly fight and the entitled father parents were constantly trying to get rid of her since he and her lived in their finished basement. They apparently were supposed to pay rent, but I overheard the entitled father parents one time arguing about how they never paid. The entitled father's mom even went as far as to say that the entitled mother only wanted to marry into his family to live the good life. Needless to say, one day the entitled mother got pregnant with the entitled father kid. Everything was actually okay for a while until the kid was delivered, meaning I did not hear much from my neighbors on their relationship since we would roast them constantly even while I was at college. Of course, the entitled father was a terrible father. He would spend thousands of dollars on things for him like drinks, card games, and video games while not saving a dime for things the kid would need since he assumed his parents would pay for it. The entitled mother and father would fight over raising and caring for the kid, basically as a game of hot potato, but with a baby instead of a potato. I eventually learned that the entitled mother had been cheating on the entitled father for several months, possibly long enough to even be before the baby was conceived. That was with one of my other friends. I still don't really approve of what he did, but in the end, I did not ever really care for either of them, so that made it easier for me. Eventually, word gets around and the entitled father finds out, so they break up. I don't hear much from this point because my friends stopped talking to him and he legitimately didn't have any other friends, so nobody knew what was going on. We found out through the entitled mother that the guy was suing for custody, meaning his parents had footed the bill for a lawyer and gotten a case against the entitled mother prepared to include her lack of assets, lack of job, lack of a high school degree, she dropped out, her car accident history, how frequently she would drink including while pregnant, her history of cheating, and much more. She apparently talked to a lawyer bringing up points like how the entitled father was mixing painkillers, antidepressants, and alcohol since they broke up, how he would spend all of his money on useless things, and his tendency to steal from others. But after looking at the case, the lawyer told her to drop it entirely. Apparently, she did not. This was brought before a court and my friends actually testified on both the entitled father and mother's behalf, stating that every allegation was true, and even added in some of their own roasts as reasons neither should be apparent. I'm not sure about the details here because, again, everything is in second hand, but apparently got to the point where CPS was alerted and asked to review the case. They apparently only allowed the entitled father to keep the child because he had a good job as an exterminator and would be supported by his parents. The entitled mother was permitted to spend a certain amount of money with a child, and that was that. Next story. Entitled Uncle Teases My Dad After We Helped Him. There is a lot of necessary context for this story, so I'm going to do it in 2 chunks. So my uncle and my aunt and their 5 kids had to leave their house because it wasn't well kept. There were cockroaches everywhere. Side note, my dad, my uncle, and one of their other brothers are triplets, and uncle takes full advantage of that. When he got pulled over, he tried to say he was my dad. That was until my dad shaved his head bald, and I'm pretty sure that caused the entitled uncle to have some resentment towards my dad. My grandpa, the entitled uncle's dad, offered to let them stay at his old house for pretty good rent and as long as they made sure it was well kept. The only reason he asked them to do that was because that was the home he planned to spend the rest of his life in. So they moved in and all was well for a few years. That was until my uncle did not pay his power bill. Eventually, the city turned off their power. But my uncle is kinda crazy, so he decided to steal a transformer from an abandoned property and set it up at my grandpa's property. The city caught wind of this and sent something to the entitled uncle, which caused him to get his family and whatever they could fit in their 2 cars and flee to another state. But that's not where the story ends. My entitled uncle and his family moved in with his aunt and uncle, and they stayed there for a year, completely for free, until his uncle decided he should have been able to save enough money to get back on their feet. After that, they left Texas and came back, but this time, they moved in with my grandma, my aunt's mom. This will be further explained in a second chunk of context. So before they moved to my grandpa's old house, my cousin had a son that wasn't expected. Everything was fine with him, but she wasn't a great mom. She mostly left him with the entitled aunt. Well, after they moved into my grandpa's old house, my cousin had another unexpected son. Except meth was found in my cousin's system before she gave birth. That was when Child Protective Service started to get involved. My cousin had her 3rd and so far last child while they were across the country, but this time, they found meth in a child system. As I said, when they moved back, they moved in with my grandma, but now my cousin was not allowed in the same house as her kids at night because CPS feared she might run away with them. So my parents agreed to let the entitled aunt come to their house with my cousin's kids at night. This happened every night for a month, until this happened. So now that the long exposition is over, let's get into the story. A few months prior to this, my grandma found out that she had lung cancer. This caused her to lay in bed all day. She lost a ton of weight and got very weak. Because of this, my parents and I were planning on visiting her, but plans changed as we became more busy. Not long after, my dad's sister passed away. It'll come back up later. One weekend, me and my parents went out to lunch since we had a free day, and afterwards we decided to go visit my grandma. When we got there, we started to talk to my grandma, telling her that she needed to start getting up more and walking to try to stop her from becoming more weak. This whole time my mom's brother was agreeing with us. Eventually, my grandma gave my mom a bunch of shorts, to which my mom handed them to my dad and asked him to take them to the car. Once he got to the steps of the Porsche, the entitled uncle stopped him and started saying that we were pretentious and that we think we are better than everyone. To me, the worst thing he said though was that we only came there because sister died. After that, he just kept going on about how we weren't welcome there, it's not his house, and then he pulled out a taser. A taser! And stuck it to my dad's gut and zapped him. Luckily, my dad is pretty strong, so the tase did not take him down or anything. But then my mom's brother ran out and started yelling about how we're horrible and that he was going to get a gang and beat my dad up. My parents and I got ready to leave, but first, my mom, angry for pretty obvious reasons, told the entitled aunt that she would need to find somewhere else for her and the kids to stay at night. The entitled aunt then started saying that her and the kids weren't a part of this, even though she was the one who told the entitled uncle that we were bossing everyone around. But there's still more. On the way back home, my dad kept getting messages from the entitled uncle saying that my uncle is a coward and that my uncle was going 90 miles per hour following us. He wasn't. My parents contacted the police and explained everything, as well as showed them the text messages, and the police suggested getting a restraining order, which my dad got for both crazy uncle and the entitled aunt. Since the restraining order papers were given to them, neither the entitled uncle or the aunt has reached out to us thankfully. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.